Hey guys, what is up? Ray Mage here, doing another World of Tanks 360 beta review. Today, as you can tell, we're going to do a review of the Panzer IV. It is a Tier 5 German medium tank. I did mention that my reviews are not going to be in any particular order. I'm going to try and get some kind of order done with these. I'm actually thinking about going back and rebuying some of the older tanks I did have, because I know not everybody's probably not on this tank. Some people are probably on to the VK36 here, and some might even be on to the Panthers and Panther IIs if you went through the VK30, if you chose a different line. But the Panzer IV is one of those first German mediums you get that plays like a typical German medium. This tank is pretty typical of what you're going to see out of most German medium-sized tanks. Primarily acts like a sharpshooter. You can press it into doing other roles just like any other medium tank, but this tank is more geared toward being a sharpshooter, just as every other German medium is. We're going to go ahead and look at the configurations, your options, if you will, when it comes to modifying this tank. In its stock form, show you here, you come with the Maybach HL108, 320 horsepower engine, and of course you have the stock L24 75mm gun, your tracks and your turret setup. This tank, just as you know, it is typical of almost all German mediums. In its stock form, it is nothing all that great. It's not bad when you compare it to the light tanks you have to grind through to get to this tank. It is not bad. The problem is you're relegated to a support role in this tank until, and of course even the next option isn't all that great, until you get to this configuration here. This is the third configuration, and this one comes with the Maybach HL120 440 horsepower engine, 75mm L48 gun, long-barreled, high-velocity, obviously, your track and your turret setup there. This tank in this setup is, I believe, what you're going to see the most of. This is what I typically see this tank outfitted in. This is the configuration I almost always see. There are some people, let me go ahead and see if this thing is going to be difficult or not. I don't think it will. See if it'll let me equip it. And okay, let me go here and camouflage. Usually it'll switch over. Don't look like it. Nope. Usually. Yeah, it won't do it. Crud. Oh well. Well, sometimes, guys, you will see it in this configuration right here. With a 105mm howitzer, the L28. Hard-hitting gun, very good gun. Comes with the HL Maybach 120. I believe it's the same engine. Yeah, it's the same engine used in the configuration I tend to use. It's not a bad setup, the final configuration. It's not that it can't do anything. The gun is effective. The problem with it is it's primarily a gun you use to scrap with other tanks. It's primarily a gun you use up close. It's primarily a gun, it's a brawling gun. Now, it doesn't have a great reload speed because it's a howitzer. I ended up experimenting with a 105 on my M4 Sherman before the white. I wasn't all that impressed with it. I mean, it had great damage output, and you could one-shot tanks. It just isn't happening. But this tank, in this configuration, with the L48, which is what I typically will run, I think it's the most effective. It's just far more effective. It is far more consistent. You're going to be able to help. Another glitch there from the beta. See if any of you guys wonder why this thing hasn't been released yet. That's why. There's some goofy glitches that happens every once in a while. But this is what you typically want to use with the Panzer IV. L48, high-velocity gun. It works. It's effective. Typically what you're going to see it outfitted with. Most people are going to use it. Alright, guys, I'm going to go ahead and switch to some gameplay. So, momentary pause should happen very shortly. Okay, guys, here is the gameplay I was talking about. This is obviously on Sand River. If you haven't played in a few days, they actually put this map back in. I think everybody got tired of Westfield, and everybody's kind of glad to see Sand River again. I don't mind it now. I mean, I just didn't like because I played Sand River all the time, but now that I got Westfield and Sand River, I got two to bitch at, and I don't want Sand River as much. Anyways, back into the review. This tank, as I said, you primarily want to sharpshoot with it in this configuration. It's just more consistent. As you can see, I got a camouflage pattern on it. This tank, as I said, primarily a sharpshooter / sniper. You want to get into a nice position toward the front lines. I think too many people will get German mediums and they'll assume it's a license to sit back with the tank destroyers and snipe that way. You're selling yourself short when you do that. Now, I mean, yeah, some of the more higher tier German mediums like the Panzer II, that have a hard-hitting gun and high penetration, yeah, you could sit back and you could be pretty effective doing that, but you're selling yourself short and you're not helping your team when you play that way. At least not as much. I feel like the best way to play a German medium is the way I'm playing it right here. You kind of get toward the front, you help your team out. I tried taking a shot on that light tank, miss. You really have to pace your shots properly. And if there is one thing I do not like about this tank, and it is pretty balanced for a German medium, this is one of the very few medium tanks that is very balanced in the German medium tank line, is it's very mortal when it comes to artillery. You just seen what one shot from artillery did to me. Took almost all my health away, tracked me, and ammo racked me. I was pretty mad at this point. I do get arty back. I do make artillery pay, and you'll see that later in the video. But this tank is pretty balanced, and even though I'm ammo racked, now for those who've never been ammo racked, I don't know if American tanks get ammo racked as much as German mediums, but when a German medium is ammo racked, they cannot reload their gun as fast. It's just very difficult. And this tank has a very quick reload without it being ammo racked. And you're going to see right here with this 75mm, it can reload pretty quick even though it's ammo racked. And yeah, I would kill for a reload this quick in my Panzer II or E50 whenever it's been ammo racked. It's very difficult to get off consistent shots with a German medium, or at least with the fire rate you need in order to be successful. Otherwise, you really have to time your shots, you really have to place them properly, and you have to really make them count. But as I was talking about, most German mediums tend to be sharpshooters, and you kind of, how do I put this? You sort of, you move with the front lines and stuff. You know, you don't sit in the back. Like I just showed you there, that's a quick reload. I would love to have a reload that fast on my Panzer II or E50 whenever it's been ammo racked. Now, right here, I'm going to demonstrate to you this tank, unlike most German mediums, and what hurts most German mediums is they get up to the higher tier guns and they have very slow reloads compared to, say, the Panzer IV right here. And that's, you know, that's the trade-off. High damage, high penetration for a slower reload. But the Panzer IV is still low enough with that 75mm gun at the tiers in the tank tree that you can get nice quick reloads in this tank. And it's balanced. You can press this tank into the role of being, I guess you could say, a scrappy tank. You can get up close and you can fight other tanks at relatively close distances. I'm going to demonstrate that here. This is the I'm not very comfortable, you know, obviously, because I've been playing a Panther and a Panzer II and an E50 lately, so I don't like even getting this close with a German medium, but I do fairly well. I was able to pop in and out. It's a quick, agile tank. You can get away with this kind of stuff. Now, I do try to sneak a shot in on that Jackson. Didn't go over too well. As a higher tier tank destroyer, it can beat the living hell out of me, and I basically have no choice but to be here in front or very close to the cap because they're there. You know, the enemy team could very well cap this, and you gotta, at some point, you gotta be brave and you gotta push up and you gotta fight. Now, I got lucky there and got some damage on that Jackson. I'm kind of surprised I damaged him. I think sometimes the reticle, the shot doesn't go quite where the reticle is, even though it says it's yellow or orange, but I shouldn't have got any damage there, but I got it. Wolverine right there. You know, I'm in a bad spot. I'm dealing with vehicles here that can hurt me. I think that's a Jumbo Sherman. That definitely is an uphill fight, especially in a Tier 5 German medium like I'm in. But this VK backs me up. I think it's a VK. I'll have to back out and check a look at it. But this is pretty much what you can do in this tank. You can bounce in and out. Yeah, it's a VK. But you can bounce in and out, and it's quick enough. This tank is pretty mobile. It's agile. Very nimble. It is more nimble than most people think. It's just a balanced German medium. You don't see that much. Once you get past this tank, you know, German mediums start being geared more toward even armor, or even more toward being that sniper role. But this tank is an exception usually to that rule. It is the most balanced of the typical German mediums. As I said, it's nimble. It's a rough and tumble tank. It can get it done. And as I said, you could run the 105 on this tank, and if I had the 105 when I was fighting in that little village there, I probably would have been doing more damage, because that's the area that the 105 excels at. Here you're going to see this tank destroyer pop up in front of me and my teammates, and I made the decision that I'm not going to fight this guy up front. I'm going to go ahead and use the speed and mobility of this tank to quickly get to the side of this tank destroyer and just, you know, try to skirt around and, you know, force him to make a decision. Does he want to stand there and try to reset the cap, or does he back up and try to account for me to save himself from getting killed? Now, I obviously didn't do anything to him. He just died there. But it was the fact that I'm going around there, and it's quick enough that I can do that. The Panzer IV is a fairly quick tank, and it's balanced. Most people don't realize how balanced of a tank it is. It is almost a perfect counterpart to the M4 Sherman. But the Sherman, of course, is a more jack-of-all-trades tank. This tank, it's more geared toward being a specialist, but you can still press it into the role that the Sherman does, well, as being that kind of do-it-all tank. It's just a simple, rough-and-tumble tank. You can't go wrong with it, really. You know, you're not invincible in this tank, and you obviously, after a few matches in it, you realize you're not. Here I do catch Artie, and I ding him up, and I pretty much show here, you know, even though when this tank is ammo racked, you can get off a quick rate of fire, and like I said, I would kill to have a rate of fire like this while being ammo racked in my E50 or Panther II. But this tank has a very quick rate of fire. I like this artillery very fast. I make him pay for what he did to me early in the match. But going on to recommended equipment to have on this tank, definitely camouflage. If you're going to be sniping primarily with this tank, like I suggest, or sharpshooting, you want to have that camouflage. This tank has a low profile compared to the VKs and the Panthers, so you're going to stay concealed more often in this tank than you would with any other tank. It's just recommended. Anytime you're going to be mostly a sharpshooter, you should go ahead and have camouflage net. Obviously, medium caliber gun rammer, faster reloads, always a good thing. You could go ahead and fill out that third equipment slot with coated optics, and you'll be good to go. But this tank, perfect, guys. It's perfectly fine at Tier 5. Please leave comments and suggestions in the on the comments below, because I'd like to improve this series. There will be more. Catch you guys later. Peace.